Hi everyone, a very good evening. My name is Himanshu. I welcome you all to this webinar with Gulaq on which is now probably you're watching us on either on LinkedIn or Twitter or YouTube, one of Pickright's social media handles. So thank you so much for joining. Vivek is with us. He will be we'll be starting with the webinar very soon. Meanwhile, I just need a confirmation from somebody if you can hear me. So if you're watching me on YouTube, you can probably type a comment, or if you're in LinkedIn or Twitter, whichever way. Okay, that's great. I see a thumbs up. That means I'm audible. So I think now it's time for us to welcome our guest. Of course, I'm pretty sure you're not here to listen to me. We are here to get some more wisdom and be a better with our finances. I'm sure all of us are here with some goal. तो अभी ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लेते हुए हम शुरू करते हैं. आई थिंक आई ऐड विवेक टू द स्ट्रीम.
Hi, Himanshu.
हाय विवेक, हाउ आर यू?
I'm doing good. How are you?
डूइंग गुड टू. वेल मैंने शायद ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लिया, लेकिन इस 2 मिनट में मेरे पास मैसेज आ गया, एक कमेंट आ गया है कि जल्दी से शुरू करते हैं. सो आई थिंक हम ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लेंगे. बिफोर वी स्टार्ट, एवरीबडी हु हैज जॉइंड, आई नो यू हैव बीन, आप गुल्लक को पहले से ही जानते हैं. यू आर अवेयर ऑफ देयर पोर्टफोलियोज एंड people, because you are on our handle, I'm assuming कि आप Pickright को जानते ही हैं. That's how you're here. So through this webinar, this also marks as a final, more like a formal announcement that Gulaq is also now available on Pickright. But more about that we'll cover in the webinar. So I think we'll move to the topic for today's discussion. Vivek, before you take over, मैं आपसे जानना चाहूंगा कि जैसा आज का टॉपिक है अबाउट बास्केट बेस्ड इन्वेस्टिंग, काफी सारी चीजें हैं. आई एम श्योर आप इसको डिटेल में कवर करेंगे. बट वो लोग जो शायद जो इस चीज को नहीं समझ रहे हैं या फिर हु आर वेरी न्यू टू द वर्ल्ड ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग, क्या आप उनको कुछ 1-2 मिनट में, इफ यू कैन गिव देम सम, टेल देम अबाउट व्हाट टू एक्सपेक्ट आउट ऑफ दिस वेबिनार, बिकॉज आई एम प्रीटी श्योर कई लोग ऐसे होंगे जो शायद ये टर्मिनोलॉजीज नहीं समझते होंगे.
Yeah. इसमें Himanshu, first of all, thanks for this opportunity to talk to your followers and people who are tracking and following Pickright. I think you guys are doing an amazing job. Now, talking about today's session, in today's session, I'll primarily try to cover three ideas, or I will try to answer three questions. And these questions are key. First of all, key, why is what is obviously basket investing, but why is this a better approach than single stock investing, right? The second question we would like to answer is how to select the right basket or the right portfolio of stocks. And the third question is key, when I've actually invested in these baskets, how long should one hold these baskets for? So these are the basic three questions I'd like to cover in today's session.
Thank you so much for this overview, Vivek. I think we will probably start with our webinar. Meanwhile, I'll take a leave. I'll leave you on the screen so that we can start. But meanwhile, I will be here. मुझे कोई भी question होगा, कोई doubt होगा, तो see the best part here right now is of course लोगों के लिए तो एक लंबा प्रोसेस होगा, वो टाइप करेंगे फिर मैं देखूंगा. बट मेरे कोई क्वेश्चंस होंगे, मैं तुरंत ही आपको एक मैसेज ड्रॉप कर दूंगा और I'll pop up on the screen with those questions.
Exactly, that's what I would prefer. If you or anyone else has questions, please do share it with me. Okay, I'll be happy to answer them. Yeah. So I'm just sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can. One sec. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Not yet. Okay, yes, we can.
You can, and you can see the PPT?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this is the agenda for today's session. I'll just briefly talk about our company, ESTEE Advisors and Gulaq, what we are doing. and then I'll move on to basket investing, what exactly it is and why is it a better approach, and how to select the right basket, and then move on to how long one should hold on to these specific baskets or portfolios, right? So quickly talking about our company ST Advisors, it was actually founded 14 years back in 2008, and the whole idea about ST is that we wanted to use the data driven approach to investing and trading, right? So the world, all the businesses are getting automated, and similarly, even in investments, a lot of automation is going on, and we wanted to automate this whole process of picking stocks based on the huge amounts of data that is available out there, right? And obviously, we all know that how difficult it is for human beings to, with the kind of data now that we have, it has become very difficult for humans to make sense out of it, and we definitely have to use machines, and that's what we have been doing for 14 years now, using systematic approach to stock selection and to creating better risk adjusted portfolios, right? We are present in over 6 countries. We are managing more than 1500 crores. We have a unique fund by the name of iAlpha, which has never given negative returns on a monthly basis for over 13 years now. Next, moving on to Gulaq. Next, moving on to Gulaq. Gulaq was founded in 2020, and the idea about Gulaq was that whatever capability we have developed within ST, that of data-driven investment methodology, we wanted to use the same capability to serve retail clients. Primarily, the first idea was that we would be able to offer these products or services to our friends and family, and then over to the larger audience. So that was the whole idea behind Gulaq's foundation. It again uses that data-driven approach being used by ST. We are a SEBI registered investment advisor, and the strategy that we use in stock selection is known as multi-factor strategy, which I'll briefly touch upon in the next few slides. Okay. So now coming on to the first question, is basket investing a better approach than single stock investing? Right. Now, what exactly is basket investing? It is, instead of betting on a single stock, whether let's say Paytm would do well, whether a Zomato would do well, instead of punting or taking a bet on a single stock, what you actually do in basket investing is you take a bet on a basket of stocks or a portfolio of stocks, which is obviously which is actually a better approach, and I'll tell you how. In terms of risk, if we see the single stock investing versus basket investing, the risk is very high in single stock investing, whereas in basket investing, this risk is low to medium. And I think it's very intuitive to understand that if you're betting on one stock, that one stock could maybe double even in 2-3 months, like what has happened with Zomato, Paytm, and new age companies, right? So on the upside also, there is huge upside, but then there is huge downside also. We have seen companies whose stock prices earlier, when they were actually listed, these companies, when they were listed, the stock price corrected by 30, 40, 50, 60%, huge corrections in those. So ideally, if you have to go about investing in a proper way, if you invest in single stocks, it is actually very risky, and that's not a very predictable way. That's not very good way of going about investing. Whereas if you are actually taking a call on a basket of stocks, let's say overall a specific sector or multiple sectors, whatever way you are doing, but it is a bet on multiple stocks, that is actually a much better and much more predictable way to generate returns. Second is about the time requirements. If you're going about single stock investing, the time requirements are huge in terms of you have to do your own research. See, if you're doing it through let's say either looking at influencer videos on YouTube, or talking to friends, family, that is very, now all of us understand that's again very unpredictable and very, very risky way of doing stock investing, right? So either you develop the skill set, which is again, if you are talking about skill set, the kind of skill set one needs to develop would be, you have to learn the fundamentals, learn to read the balance sheet, then the technicals, and also the macro environment. And there are tons of companies. Even if you are doing, let's say, investing on Nifty 50 companies, there are 50 companies across multiple sectors. So this actually becomes, this is actually cannot be done part time. It is actually a kind of a full-time job in trying to pick individual stocks and then creating a portfolio out of it, right? So the time requirements and also the skill set required is very, very high in terms of single stock investing. Whereas if you are doing a basket investing, what happens is the only skill that is required, and I'll talk about how to select these specific funds or baskets, but the skill that is required is for you to pick up these baskets, which can be actually learned in limited amount of time, and also the time requirement won't be really too high, right? So talking about skill set, risk, and time requirements, all of these, on all of these parameters, actually basket investing makes much, much more sense for any professional, be it a software engineer, doctors. We all have our full-time job, and we're not into this full-time, right? So it is just that we, whatever earnings we are doing on a monthly basis, we want to save, put aside some money for our long-term or short-term financial goals, and how to properly invest and grow the money. Right? That's one. That's the only approach. We are not. Uh, Most of the people don't really want to get into stock picking full time, right? And that's how it should be actually, right? Now I'll also talk about the way we actually do stock picking, even if we have learned one skill. So there's this very popular story about few blind men who were trying to, who were asked to actually touch an elephant, and were asked to actually predict what exactly is the thing they are touching. So the person who was touching the tail, he guessed that I'm touching a rope, whereas the person who was touching the elephant's legs, he thought it to be a tree trunk, whereas somebody who was touching, let's say, its stomach, thought it to be a wall, right? So all of them here were trying to guess this whole thing as an elephant, but uh, based on the limited view or limited information they had, they were actually unable to guess exactly what it is, right? And that's kind of the same approach that we as individual investors make when we are trying to select individual stocks, in the sense that we are almost always unable to look at the big picture, the whole 360-degree view, and we have a limited skill set. Let's say somebody who is a CA would might be good at, let's say, reading the balance sheet, so he might pick up strong, fundamentally good stocks, but then he won't be good in, let's say, technicals. Whereas someone who has learned uh, technicals, how to read the technicals well, he might be very good in technicals, but then he wouldn't know the company's fundamentals. Or somebody is good at this, both of these things, but if he does not have a very good macro understanding, then he won't be able to take calls on these specific sectors or stocks. So the point I'm trying to make here is, there are multiple things that are required, that are actually influencing a stock. And when you're trying to select the best stocks for your portfolio, in that case, you have to know about all of these things. The more you know, the better it is. So in terms of results, you want to see a specific company, how it has been growing over last 5 years or last 10 years. You might want to compare that specific stock that you're trying to analyze with the other stocks in the same sector. But then why would you restrict yourself to a specific sector? You might want to know that, is there any other sector which is likely to grow well, Are there certain macro factors like, let's say, impact of high oil prices or impact of, say, inflation? What is that? What are those macro factors doing to the stocks or a specific sector? Or the other questions might be that, is this specific stock likely to enter or exit an index, like what we have seen more recently with Reliance Jio, because it had to exit Nifty, because it was not earlier, it was a part of Reliance, but now since it got demerged with Reliance, it had to exit Nifty. And that's why we saw huge selling, and for days and days it was just in lower circuit.
Yes.
Or let's say how a specific stock is priced technically. So we all, I think, know the story about ITC. So ITC for last 1.5 years has been growing very well. But prior to that, for a few years, even though its results were good, fundamentally it was a strong stock, but it was in a very, very range bound market. The markets would go up, but ITC wouldn't go up. And when the markets were correcting overall, ITC wouldn't fall down. So it was in a very, very tight range. So even though results and everything was good, but technically it was not a very good stock to be in, right? Or the other factors that influence a stock price is FNO data in the short run. What is FNO data telling us, or what does volume data tell us, whether this is a good stock to buy or not? Now, these are multiple factors that are influencing a stock, and it's uh, very hard for investors to look at all of this data and then try to make sense out of it. And that's why I'm telling that if you actually, the other approach, which is through through these portfolio of stocks which are curated by professionals, if you look at that and if they are doing a good job of looking at all of these individual factors that are influencing a stock, that is much better way. And in terms of, as I discussed earlier, in terms of time requirement, skill set requirement, it is a very easy way to go about investing if you are investing through baskets of stocks.
Vivek, I would like to sorry to cut you off here. We're
Yeah, yeah.
getting this in. I'm sure शायद हमने इसको काफी हद तक कवर कर लिया है.
Mhm.
Uh, it looks okay. The question is from Amit. It looks okay. His question is, in terms of risk mitigation, how is basket based investing better than other investment strategies? Are there any specific risks unique to this approach? Because different approaches have different risks also.
Exactly. Yeah. So, see, one risk what we have spoken about is obviously of single stock investing versus basket. So, a single stock, you're relying on only a few stocks that you have selected with your research. So, one is obviously the diversification of stocks. But another thing is what I'm going to talk about in the next few slides is how to pick the right stocks, because mm, uh, right basket, because if, and when I say basket, it is actually a portfolio of stocks. So there are baskets on Pickright, but then these similar rules that I'm talking about, similar approach you can you use to, say, select mutual funds, because mutual funds are also, they are much more diversified baskets in that sense, right? So here I'll talk about few things like these are the popular factors. Now I haven't explained the factor, but factor is when we were talking about in the earlier few slides that uh, what are the known driver of these returns. So one of the driver of returns could be, let's say, last few years return results or financials, right? One of the factor could be in inclusion or exclusion into an index. So these are multiple factors based on which you can actually select stocks, and these are the factors that drive a stock returns. So in this, if you see value, there is a very popular factor by the name of value, in which what you do is, let's say, you are you want to select the best out of top 100 stocks, which are the stocks that are most undervalued. So if you pick stocks on the basis of valuation of these companies, and there are multiple ways you can use valuations. you can actually determine whether a specific company is undervalued or not. But if you are using one of those multiple factors that can help you determine whether that company is undervalued or not, and based on that, if you're selecting a stock, so that means you're using a value factor to select the stocks. Similarly, there's alpha, momentum, quality, low vol. They're different. These are the popular factors. Now if you see in this specific chart, what we have shown is the top ranked factors. So for each year, which is the factor that has performed the best, it is at top, and in the decreasing order of their performance, right? So if you see this, uh, you would see that uh, there's huge rotation in terms of performance. At times, let's say overall, if we see, momentum has never performed in the top, but over long run, if you see, momentum is a pretty strong performer. But last 2 3 years, if you see, momentum really hasn't done well. Now in 2023, which is not updated here, but in 2023 again momentum is doing well, but last 2 years, last 1.5 years or so, it was pretty bad for momentum, and value has done very well in last 2 years. Whereas prior to that, for 3 4 years, and for many years, in fact 2011 to 2020, I think value was one of the most underperforming factors. But last 2 3 years, it has done very well. So the point I'm trying to make is, we can't really rely on one of these factors to pick stocks, right? Again, if you go to sector wise performance and see, and try to predict which specific sector is going to do well, or if there's a specific trend, uh, there's actually no clear trend here. And again, money keeps on flowing from one sector to another. So although we know that IT companies have done well overall, but if you see, IT has topped out of these 13 14 years data, maybe in 2013 and 18 other 2 years where IT has done well. Real estate did well in 17 and 19. Healthcare, pretty interestingly, in 2020, because of COVID, it did very well. But in 21, it was the worst performing. And I think one of the reasons was that although results and the financials of these companies, the business they were doing, it was still phenomenal in 2021. But because in 2020, the stock prices have run up so high that they were maybe not cheap by any measure, right? And that's why it was the worst performing in terms of returns. In terms of business, it was still doing very well, but in terms of returns, in terms of performance of their stocks, it was the worst. So again, no clear trend. You can't really rely on one specific sector. And even if you talk about these market cap indices, whether one should invest in, say, large caps or mid caps or small cap, again, the point here is same, that there's no clear pattern, no clear trend, and sometimes one does well, whereas another times another, right? So the challenges here are that none of the factors, or none of the sector, or none of these market cap indices you should rely on in the long run. So if you are a very very active investor who is clued on to the things that are happening in the market, who is very very up to date, spending a lot of time in figuring out what is happening with these sectors and all of that, only in that case you can select these baskets which are based on these themes. So the theme could be IT, or the theme could be on momentum or growth, right? So these are thematic baskets or thematic portfolios. So the point here is that it's very risky for one to invest in these themes, because then you are trying to time these specific themes, which is a very difficult task in itself. So when you are trying to actually select uh, a portfolio of stocks, whether it's a mutual fund or basket from Pickright or anywhere else, uh, the safer bet or the better approach for the long term would be, you select these baskets uh, which are much more diversified in nature. So in terms of market cap, it should be a multi cap basket, in which it will have a mix of large cap, mid cap, and small cap. Again, in terms of sector, it has to be diversified, that they should be no bias towards a specific sector or no bias towards the factors also, because what we have seen is in the past, momentum, there have been many funds on momentum in the market which have done well, but again, last 1.5 years or so, they have done poorly also and lost good amounts of money. Last 3-4 months, again, it has started working. So it's a very inconsistent approach. A better approach is you try to select funds which are more diversified in nature in terms of their stock selection and in terms of their universe that they are considering. Right? I think this is what I wanted to share when somebody asked that how exactly or what are the risks even in these baskets or the portfolios. So I think the biggest risk is if investors are trying to select those thematic funds based on specific approaches, that those that is actually a risky approach. In the short run, if you are right or if you are lucky, it might give you phenomenal returns, but then it will take away those returns also at a very good pace, right?
Yes, I thank you
Uh,
so much for covering that, Vivek. I guess it answers the question for him. But again, we'll wait. If we receive any more queries, then I'll probably come back to you.
sure, right. So in Gulaq, the approach, now I'd like to cover a bit about the approach that we are taking in Gulaq, and it's a very balanced and diversified approach. So we do not have any bias in terms of sectors. We take all the sectors, we take all the market cap companies, whether it's large cap, mid cap, small cap, and our algos. When we say we, that means our algos consider all the factors, and not only all the factors. There are some popular 5, 6, 7 factors, but in Gulaq we are tracking almost 130 factors, and most of them are proprietary in nature, which is a mix of everything. Mix of everything means we out of these 130 factors, there are many factors which are taking into account the fundamentals of these companies. We are taking into account all the technical factors that can impact stocks and also the macro factors. And based on all of these, we and again, using the macro factors, we try to determine the current regime we are in and what are the factors that are likely to work in this specific regime. So we are not using, although there are 130 factors in our universe, but we are not selecting stocks based on all of these 130 factors. What we do is we'll identify the top factors that are likely to work in the current market scenario and use only those factors to select the stocks, right? So ours is mostly what you can say is it's much more balanced approach that ways, and it results in the consistency also, consistency of performance, right? So again, to summarize how Gulaq's multi-factor approach adds value overall, we are not looking at only just the top popular factors, but we are looking at more than 130 factors that impact stocks. We have about 18 global and local macro factors that we analyze that helps us in determine which are the sectors that can do well or which are the factors that can do well according to these macro factors. Now we keep on rotating these factors based on the recent performance, and a lot of AI and ML is being used in this. So the first edge is we are able to define these factors in a better way, and second is we are able to select these factors, which factors are likely to work in the current market conditions, right? Obviously we have used whatever data is available, which in India's case it is 15 years of data that we have used to historically test our overall stock selection methodology. And this is not only in India, we have actually tested this specific approach in 6 countries, and our algos are running in 6 countries, although other 5 countries we don't have a way to offer those portfolios to retail clients as of now. So that's why we are offering only Indian portfolios. But this specific approach we are using in 6 countries, and all of these 6 countries we have been able to do really well. And lastly, again, this is a very important point, because we are fully systematic in nature. Ours is purely a quantitative based approach decided by the data. So our system actually does not get greedy or fearful. So it eliminates the emotions, which is actually the source of many errors, right? So I'm done with the first 2 parts. Are there any questions that we'd like to take at this point of time?
I think yes, we do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So first question, okay, I think ये शायद थोड़ा पहले का question है, हमने cover कर लिया है, but I'll still let you know. What is
Yeah.
the core principle of basket-based investing and how is it different from other diversified strategies? जैसे कि अगर मैं खुद ही multiple assets में डाल रहा हूँ या theme buckets में डाल रहा हूँ, how is it different? I think we have covered this question, but if you would still like to cover it in brief, we can.
Yeah, I think I think his question may, what he's asking is ki, instead of putting it in basket, maybe if you yourself try to select these themes.
Yes.
Again, see, the point is ki, if you are a very, very informed investor and you like to spend a lot of time doing this research, maybe yes, you can take that approach of selecting individual theme based portfolios. लेकिन see, the point that I've told earlier is that it requires a lot of time and the skills,
Yes.
right? Maybe that is a suitable approach for hardly 5% of the investors, right, who have the skill set and the time. But for the 95% of the investors who either do not have the interest or skill set or time, that is not a very good approach. And that's what I was saying, ki, for the 95% of the people, uh, the better approach is you select these broad based funds which are not biased towards a specific theme. Yeah. So maybe for 5% of the people it will work. Yeah. Himanshu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one more question which I see.
Mhm.
This question is coming from Naveen. It's posted on LinkedIn. The question is there a study? Sorry, is there a steady way to identify when the sector is too hot to exit, like PE ratio or any other ratio? Because like entry time, exit is also important. And what is
Yeah.
your approach to exit a stock or sector in your own portfolio?
Yeah.
I think this is probably related to maybe शायद मुझे लग रहा है ये bucket balancing से related question है
Bucket
or
balancing se hai, and what I think what he's asking is about the exits actually.
yeah.
See, PE ratio is one of the ways in which you can identify, but there are multiple ways in which can impact a stock or a sector, right? So, जैसे like in bubbles, what happens in bubbles, right? Uh, what happens in bubbles is, and actually bubbles are actually a very good way of making money during that time, because मार्केट्स या फिर कोई भी एक एसेट अगर बबल में होता है तो इट इज एक्चुअली ओवर प्राइस्ड, बट यू रियली डोंट नो till when it is going to be overpriced. So the stock price keeps increasing and increasing for a lot of period of time. So what happens is, the point I'm trying to make is ki, if you look at just the fundamentals, maybe that stock is overpriced and you should sell, right? But let's say if you add, with these fundamentals you add technical factors. So if you add a very simple, let's say a very simple technical factor like a 20-day moving average. So what the 20-day moving average would do is, if a stock is, price is in uptrend, it will always stay above that 20-day moving average. So along with fundamentals, you have identified a very strong, fundamentally strong company, just a very basic example, and bought you have bought some stocks in that. Now, and the simple approach you are taking is you will stay invested until and unless the stock price breaches that 20-day moving average. तो अगर वो ऊपर जाता जा रहा है तो उसका स्टॉक प्राइस हमेशा वो 20-डे मूविंग एवरेज से ऊपर रहेगा। दैट्स अ सिंपल रूल। तो अगर वो ओवर प्राइस भी हो गया है, ठीक है, एट सम पॉइंट, बिकॉज इट्स अ वेरी गुड कंपनी, एवरीवन हैज आइडेंटिफाइड कि इसका स्टॉक प्राइस भी मूव हो रहा है, तो वो ओवर प्राइस तो हो गया है, बट दैट इज नॉट द ओनली रीजन व्हाई यू शुड सेल अ स्टॉक, राइट? Because now to exit what you're using is 20-day moving average। वो हो सकता है कि उस स्पेसिफिक सेक्टर में लेट्स से कि एवरेज पीई इज अबाउट 25 और उस स्पेसिफिक स्टॉक का पीई हो गया है 35-40, सो यू माइट फील कि यार एवरेज से ऑलमोस्ट डबल के आसपास हो गया है, आई मस्ट एग्जिट। बट मैंने रूल बना लिया है कि मैंने एग्जिट तभी करना है जब ये मूविंग एवरेज से नीचे आ जाएगा। वो 40 का 50 हुआ, 50 का 80, 80 का 100, लाइक वी हैव सीन दीस काइंड ऑफ केसेस, एंड व्हाट हैपेंस इज इट कीप्स गोइंग अप। आपका वो स्टॉक जहां से आपको लग रहा था कि ओवर प्राइस है वहां से डबल भी हो गया है, राइट? तो वो और ज्यादा ओवर प्राइस हो गया है, and when it actually starts correcting and you're using one of those technical indicators, in this case that I am explaining, you're just using a moving average, जब वो उससे नीचे आ जाएगा तब आप exit कर जाओगे, right? So so again, to exit a stock, only determining whether it is overvalued is not the full approach. You have to determine uh, using technical indicators whether it is the right time to exit or not, right? So again, point being कि हम वो बहुत short term या एक part ही देख रहे हैं, we are not looking at that specific stock in a 360-degree manner. Okay, so that's why the approach one should take is obviously use a multi-factor approach, which in which what you are doing is looking at that same stock with different lenses to identify कि अगर वो overvalued भी हो गया है, technical indicators भी उसके बोल रहे हैं कि now it has started correcting, maybe that is the time you exit, right? In our approach that we are using, we are just trying to find out the best stocks possible. So we don't in our approach we are never saying that now the markets are overvalued and we'll shift to cash. We'll not do that, although that is one approach that people use to reduce risk. Okay, but the way we think about it is as opposed to moving into cash, what we would like to do is, if the market regime is such that maybe the correction is imminent, in that case we would like to shift to safer stocks. So instead of having exposure to mid cap, small caps, we'll shift to uh, large caps, or instead of having exposure to growth or momentum portfolios which work well in rising markets, we'll shift to safer factors like value or low vol. That is the approach that we are using in order to reduce the risk during those times. Because if you take the first approach of moving to cash, then you're not done yet. Why you're not done yet? Because let's say you moved 30% to cash, 70% is in equity. But the second step that you'll need to take is, when do I invest that 30% cash that I'm holding again back to equities, right? So that is a two-step decision making process. And what we have seen in our experience is we are not good at it, and the way we have analyzed other funds that are doing, it's very tough thing to do. It's very tough thing to get right those two decisions. Only then you will come out ahead, right? So I can just quickly share. See, the approach that we are using, in that case we never shifted to cash, and during this whole roughly 1.5 year period when the stock market didn't give any returns and it was just going up or down 10%, even during that time we were able to give good solid around 37% returns. And this is the time when we actually shifted to mostly large caps, and along with that safer factors like value and low vol. Whereas last 2-3 months, if you see, again our portfolios is now heavy on mid cap and small cap, and there's smaller allocation to large cap, and we have shifted focus now to growth and momentum stocks. Okay,
Yes, I think so. This definitely answers the question. But Naveen, if you have any other follow-up question, feel free to drop us your question again. I think Vivek, we can continue for now. I still see a couple of questions, but
Okay.
to it look they are probably a little more advanced. I guess once you cover this, how long should one hold these portfolios?
Okay.
We will
Sure.
take those later. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first point here is, because these are baskets of equities, one should not take a short-term view in this. So any money that you might need in the next 1 or 2 years should not be invested in these equity-based baskets, because the chances here, I have shown the chances of getting profit from these investments. Now, the chances of getting profit from these investments keep rising as your holding period keeps increasing. So the chances of profit over a 10-year period is almost 100%. So you're sure to make decent money, and it will beat FD returns over a longer period of 10 years. But if you reduce it to, say, 1 year, then your chances of profit are roughly around 60 to 65%, right? So the point is that if you're investing money for 1 year, then there are maybe 30 to 35% chance that you can lose money. So 1 year is a short term thing, and you should only invest in equity markets for longer term. So 1 2 years, I would recommend not to invest in equity markets. You have to have at least 3 4 year view, and then only get into equity markets. So that is one point. So even in this, if you see, 1 day chances of getting a profit in 1 day is just about 50, slightly higher than 50%. So that is one thing कि इक्विटी मार्केट्स में तभी इन्वेस्ट करें जब आपका टाइम हॉराइजन 1 2 साल से लंबा है. उससे पहले आप, अगर आपको लग रहा है कि पैसा निकालने की मेरे को जरूरत पड़ सकती है, तो यू शुड नॉट इन्वेस्ट इन दीज बास्केट्स, राइट. सेकेंड पॉइंट इज कि अगर आपने कोई बास्केट आइडेंटिफाई कर ली है और उसमें इन्वेस्ट कर दिया है, तो क्या चांस है कि आपका जो स्पेसिफिक पोर्टफोलियो है वो एक इंडेक्स को बीट करेगा. So again, this is based on Gulaq. Now, Gulaq Gear 6 specific portfolio has been live for 3 years. So based on last 3 years data, we have taken the rolling returns, and then we have found out कि अगर आप एक दिन के लिए इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, तो chances of Gulaq portfolio beating the benchmark is again just about 50%, slightly higher than 50%. वो 50 to 53% आता है. That's it, right? लेकिन अगर आपका होल्डिंग पीरियड 1 मंथ का है, इन दैट केस योर चांस इंक्रीजेस टू 60%. तो साल में 12 महीने हैं, 12 महीने में से करीब 7 8 महीने होंगे जब आपका प्रॉफिट होगा, बट 4 से 5 महीने ऐसे होंगे, नॉट प्रॉफिट बट जहां पे गुल्लक इंडेक्स को बीट करेगा. बट 12 महीने में से 4 5 महीने ऐसे भी होंगे जहां पे गुल्लक अंडर परफॉर्म कर रहा है इंडेक्स को. ठीक है. अगेन आप 3 मंथ के लिए जाते हैं तो ये रफली 75% हो जाएगा, और अगर आप 1 साल के लिए होल्ड करेंगे तो एटलीस्ट बेस्ड ऑन हिस्टोरिकल डेटा इट इज सजेस्टिंग कि 100% चांस है आउट परफॉर्मेंस का. इसका मतलब क्या है कि अगर आपने किसी बास्केट में इन्वेस्ट किया है जो अच्छा है, तो आप उसको कुछ टाइम दीजिए देखने के लिए कि ये एक्चुअली अच्छा कर रहा है या नहीं. इस डेटा को देख के ऐसा लग रहा है कि 1 महीना या 3 महीना इज नॉट द अप्रोप्रिएट टाइम टू जज these active portfolios. When I say active portfolios, which means कि active portfolios वो होते हैं जो स्टॉक सिलेक्शन के थ्रू ट्राई करते हैं इंडेक्स को बीट करने का, है ना. तो 1 महीना या 3 महीना इट इज रिलेटिवली शॉर्ट ड्यूरेशन फॉर एनी फंड, एनी गुड फंड टू टेल यू एनीथिंग. क्योंकि वही है, 3 महीने में भी आपको लग सकता है कि मेरा ये फंड अंडर परफॉर्म कर रहा है, जो कि होता है. इवन गुल्लक के साथ भी हुआ है ये. लेकिन अगर आप 1 साल तक उसे होल्ड करते हैं तो देयर इज वेरी गुड चांस कि यू विल गेट टू सी whether that fund is actually able to beat the index or not. तो जब भी आप इनमें इन्वेस्ट करें, एक तो ओवरऑल टाइम होराइजन तो 3 साल का है, बट शॉर्ट टर्म होराइजन 1 साल का दीजिए. उस स्पेसिफिक फंड में इन्वेस्टेड रहिए एटलीस्ट 1 साल के लिए, for it to tell you exactly whether this fund is doing that fund or fund manager is doing a good job or not. ठीक है. So this was my view on how long one should invest in these active funds. Okay, Himanshu, I'm done with whatever I wanted to cover. Happy to take on more questions. But before that, I'll just like to go through these disclaimers that we are a SEBI registered investment advisor. Again, investment in securities market are subject to market risk, and our details of our registrations in number are here. Registered address is given. Okay. Yeah. So I'm happy to take on more questions, whatever you have.
Well, thank you so much, Vivek, for taking the time. मैं अभी मेरे पास यहाँ पर I can see 4 more questions coming up. Meanwhile, कुछ और होंगे तो we will definitely take those up.
Okay.
Uh, okay, this is a slightly okay. It looks like he's a seasoned investor. The question is, I have been investing for about 11 years now. I have tried basket-based strategies before.
Yeah.
Is there any specific advanced technique or consideration that you will recommend?
No, yeah, I think you have been investing for 11 years, and thoda sa, I'd just like to talk about the mindset ki when our portfolio grows or when our experience is growing, हमें काफी बार लगता है कि हमें मे बी आई शुड मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट थिंग, कि म्यूचुअल फंड्स मैंने बहुत इन्वेस्ट कर लिया है, म्यूचुअल फंड्स के बाद मे बी आई गो टू समथिंग एक्सोटिक, राइट? और बहुत बार इस सब चीजों की जरूरत होती नहीं है. माय पर्सनल अप्रोच इज कि आई लाइक टू कीप थिंग्स वेरी वेरी सिंपल. तो मैं इंडेक्स में काफी इन्वेस्ट करता हूँ. रफली 40% ऑफ व्हाटएवर आई इन्वेस्ट इन इक्विटीज is to index funds through mutual funds. Or baki 60% is into active funds, and most of it is in Gulaq Gear 6. So personally, I like to keep things very, very simple. And the thing that you have learned over last 11 years, I think if you have been active in reading and learning about all of these things, I think that is good enough. Just more than product, more than these products, the process is much more important. तो अगर आप बहुत अच्छा प्रोडक्ट में इन्वेस्ट कर दिया है आपने, बट यू आर नॉट डिसिप्लिन्ड इन ईदर सेविंग मनी, डूइंग सिप, या फिर आप मार्केट टाइमिंग करके आपको लग रहा है मार्केट अभी गिरने वाली है तो पहले निकल गए नीचे, आपको लग रहा है मैं नीचे एंटर कर जाऊंगा, आप वो सारी चीजें अगर ट्राई कर रहे हैं तो मोस्ट लाइकली फिर आपका लॉस होगा, कि जितना वो फंड परफॉर्म कर रहा है आपको उतना नहीं मिलेगा. ठीक है, तो दैट्स व्हाट आई से कि अगर आप एक सिंपल से फंड में भी इन्वेस्टेड है, मे बी इंडेक्स फंड, लेकिन आपका प्रोसेस अच्छा है कि आप हर मंथ सिप कर रहे हैं विदाउट फेल, आप मार्केट टाइम नहीं कर रहे, आप खुद से इंडिविजुअल स्टॉक्स पिक नहीं कर रहे, जिससे मोस्टली काफी लोगों का लॉसेस होते हैं, और आपका प्रोसेस अगर ठीक है, तो आई थिंक दैट इज मच मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट देन ट्राइंग टू सेलेक्ट वेरी वेरी एक्सोटिक प्रोडक्ट और वेरी गुड प्रोडक्ट. तो process is much more important. Product is important, but again limited importance है product की, process की ज़्यादा importance है. So that's what I would like to share.
Okay, there's one more question. Oh, okay, I will still read the question. Looks like यहाँ पे शायद थोड़ा सा अंडरस्टैंडिंग में मिसमैच हो गया. एंजल वन ने रिसेंटली बास्केट ऑर्डर फीचर डाला था. इज बास्केट इन्वेस्टिंग द सेम? वेल नो. What would you like to take this up, Vivek?
Maybe you can take. I have limited this basket order feature. I'm not too aware of it, so maybe you can take it.
It's nothing. It's just a. I mean, it's simple. You can execute multiple orders on a single click. You can set those up and click it. So it's just a feature to. मतलब मल्टीपल ऑर्डर्स एक साथ एग्जीक्यूट आप सेट
एक
करके रख
साथ
दो.
जा सकते हैं.
हाँ,
Okay.
एग्जैक्टली एग्जैक्टली.
Right.
एक ये है कि निफ्टी 50 और बीएसई सेंसेक्स 2023 में इनकी काफी अच्छी परफॉर्मेंस रही है. इसको देखते हुए इफ आई हैव लिमिटेड कैपिटल शुड आई गो फॉर इंडेक्सेस या इज इट ओके टू एक्सप्लोर बकेट्स एज वेल, बास्केट्स एज वेल?
I think अगर आप स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं इन्वेस्टिंग, तो आई वुड रिकमेंड, ऑलवेज रिकमेंड एन इंडेक्स फंड. दैट इज अ वेरी गुड वे टू गेट स्टार्टेड विद इन्वेस्टिंग. एक तो ये है, और अगर आप इन्वेस्ट करते आए हैं तो डेफिनेटली आई वुड आस्क यू कि आप ये बास्केट्स ट्राई आउट कर सकते हैं, दैट इज वन। सेकेंड थिंग इज कि आप किसी भी एक स्पेसिफिक फंड में, वेदर इट्स अ म्यूचुअल फंड और अ बास्केट, आप कितना इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए। तो roughly I think 20 to 25% is the maximum I would ask anyone to invest in a specific fund. तो अगर आपके पास लेट्स से 1 लाख रुपए हैं टोटल पोर्टफोलियो में, तो किसी भी एक फंड में आप 25,000, 20-25,000 ही डालिए, उससे ज्यादा मत डालिए, ताकि कंसंट्रेशन ना हो एक स्पेसिफिक फंड की तरफ, है ना। अगर आपके पास 10 लाख का पोर्टफोलियो है तो आप एक फंड में 2.5 लाख 3 लाख तक भी डाल सकते हैं, ठीक है। अगेन, सो दैट्स द पॉइंट। वन इज कि इफ यू आर गेटिंग स्टार्टेड, maybe it's a good approach to stick to index funds. If you have been investing, then you can definitely try out baskets, but at the same time कितना डालना है एक basket में, I think 20-25% is a reasonably good thing you can invest in one basket.
Okay. Okay, ये probably this has become now my one of my favorite questions to ask. ओवर डाइवर्सिफिकेशन से कैसे बचना है? आई थिंक आई गेट द एसेंस ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन कि डाइवर्सिफिकेशन की हम इतनी बात करते हैं, कई बार
Yeah.
नहीं समझ में आता है कि कुछ कहीं ज्यादा तो नहीं कर गए। मैंने सोचा नहीं कभी इस बारे में, बट दिस क्वेश्चन लुक्स रियली, मुझे लगता है शायद ये काफी लोगों को आता होगा।
Over diversification, how can it hurt you? I think that's what we are trying to get to, कि अगर मैंने ज्यादा डाइवर्सिफाई कर लिया तो इसका क्या नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट होगा, राइट?
आई थिंक सो, बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव अ कॉन्टेक्स्ट, बस इतना ही क्वेश्चन पोस्ट किया है। अमित,
हाँ,
अमित, इट विल बी गुड अगर आप इस क्वेश्चन को, इफ यू कैन प्रोबेबली गिव अस सम मोर कॉन्टेक्स्ट। Okay, I think we'll come back to this question.
yeah.
We'll
But
take the
still,
last question.
okay,
Okay, yeah.
okay. You can just tell me the last question also, and accordingly I'll just answer these two. One is over diversification, and this one you are asking.
ये कि फॉरेन इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टमेंट 2023 में इंडिया में काफी ज्यादा आई है।
Yeah.
क्या इसको देखते हुए आप अपने बास्केट्स के कॉम्पोजिशंस को चेंज करते हो? एंड हाउ ऑफन फॉर मी एज अ रिटेल इन्वेस्टर शुड आई रीबैलेंस माय बास्केट और शुड आई रीविजिट इट? आई
तो
थिंक 2 क्वेश्चन।
एफआईआई वाला जो डेटा आपने पूछा, तो जैसे मैंने पहले बताया था ना, 130 फैक्टर्स हैं हमारे पोर्टफोलियो में ओवरऑल, हम जो कंसिडर करते हैं। तो ये जो इंस्टीट्यूशनल बाइंग एंड सेलिंग है, एंड व्हेन आई से इंस्टीट्यूशनल, इट्स बोथ बाय इंस्टीट्यूशंस, एफआईआईज, डोमेस्टिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस, फॉरेन इंस्टीट्यूशंस, एंड आल्सो कंपनी इनसाइडर्स, कंपनी मैनेजमेंट जो बाय और सेल कर रही है, that is one of the factors amongst those 130 factors that we take into account while selecting our stocks. So yes, we do look at this data, but that is one of the total 130 factors that we look at. ठीक है? That is about FIIs. There was related second part of this question was about Himanshu. There was second part to this question, right?
Yes, one was I think we have covered, and second question is, wait, let me go back to the question.
There was a second part.
Yes, there were 2 questions.
How frequently one should rebalance their portfolio?
Once I have invested in a bucket, do I have to? Okay, yes. Once I have invested in a bucket, how frequently do I need to revisit it and rebalance it?
ओके, सो जैसे हमारा बास्केट है, वी रीबैलेंस इट वंस अ मंथ। तो हमारे बास्केट में अगर किसी ने इन्वेस्ट किया है तो वंस अ मंथ आपको आके अपना पोर्टफोलियो, जस्ट यूजुअली फर्स्ट ऑफ एवरी मंथ, आपको अपना पोर्टफोलियो 5 मिनट लगेंगे मे बी मैक्सिमम, उतने में आपको रीबैलेंस करना होगा। दैट्स व्हाट वी डू. But it depends on other. There might be few managers who are rebalancing much more frequently. There might be few managers who are rebalancing once a quarter as well, right? So it depends on basket to basket. We are doing a monthly rebalance.
Okay. So I
Okay.
think I got the question from Amit. The context is he's saying कि मैंने मेरा 78,000 रुपीज से मैंने 3 साल पहले अपना पोर्टफोलियो बनाया था, इसमें 17 स्टॉक्स थे, फिर और मैं आज भी होल्ड कर रहा हूँ, बट मुझे रियलाइज हुआ कि उसमें से अगर 6 स्टॉक्स को मैं नहीं डालता तो मैं काफी अच्छा प्रॉफिट बना लेता. तो ओवर डाइवर्ट और ओके, या दिस इज द एंटायर
I
थिंग
get
दैट
it.
यस.
See, I think that is not the way to look at it. The way to look at it is कि अगर आपने खुद से ये स्टॉक सेलेक्ट किए हैं और आप इन्हें ट्रैक कर पा रहे हो, तो आई थिंक दैट इज अ गुड जॉब ओवरऑल. क्योंकि अगेन एज आई सेड इट्स नॉट इजी. तो अगर आपका पोर्टफोलियो ओवरऑल अगर इंडेक्स को बीट कर पा रहे हो विद दी 17 स्टॉक्स, आई थिंक इट्स प्रीटी गुड. आई थिंक 17 in my mind is not too concentrated and not too diversified. It's somewhere in the middle. बट जैसे आप देख रहे हैं अमित कि 17 में से अगर ये 4-5 स्टॉक्स मैंने नहीं लिए होते तो मेरा पोर्टफोलियो बहुत अच्छा होता. तो आई थिंक दैट इज नॉट प्रोबेबली नॉट द राइट वे. ऑब्वियसली यू शुड ट्राई टू लर्न कि मैं ये जो खराब स्टॉक्स थे, इफ दे आर एनी रीजंस, बट इट्स नेवर पॉसिबल टू आइडेंटिफाई ओनली गुड स्टॉक्स. ठीक है. अगर आप जैसे वॉरेन बफे का भी एग्जांपल लें, ही इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट इन्वेस्टर्स एंड इफ यू सी हिज ओवरऑल रिटर्न्स, प्रोबेबली मे बी लेस देन 10 ऐसे आइडियाज या इन्वेस्टमेंट्स रहे होंगे जो कि मैक्सिमम उसके रिटर्न्स वहीं से लेस देन 10 आइडियाज से आए होंगे. तो ही गेट्स इट रॉन्ग मेनी मेनी टाइम्स. सो द आइडिया इज नॉट कि आप ज्यादा स्टॉक्स पिक कर पाए, बट द आइडिया इन योर केस शुड बी कि अगर आप खराब स्टॉक्स पिक किए हुए हैं तो उसमें कितना लॉस हो रहा है वर्सेस जो अच्छे स्टॉक्स हैं उसमें कितना प्रॉफिट हो रहा है. That is one of the things you should measure. You should not try to eliminate the bad stocks because that is impossible. ठीक है. तो अगर आप लेट्स से कि आपके जो अच्छे स्टॉक्स हैं उसमें जस्ट फॉर दिस एग्जांपल लेट्स से आपका 20% प्रॉफिट हुआ और जो खराब स्टॉक्स हैं उसमें आपका 3-4% लॉस हुआ, तो ओवरऑल आई थिंक यू आर प्रीटी डूइंग प्रीटी फाइन कि आपका लॉस ज्यादा नहीं है. And that is one of the things that we also measure in our portfolios. तो हमारे portfolios में if I saw कि जो top 3 stocks थे उनका weight was around 23%. Okay, this is for last month, not this month. तो top 3 stocks का 23% weight था, bottom 3 का था 21%. So roughly उतना ही था. जो stocks ने सबसे खराब किया उसका भी roughly 20% था. बट जो टॉप 3 स्टॉक्स थे, वन स्टॉक गेव 20%, अनदर रफली 30, वन स्टॉक गेव 40. इस टाइप से कुछ तो काफी अच्छे रिटर्न्स दिए थे. और जो कि जो बॉटम 3 स्टॉक्स थे उन्होंने जो लॉस किया था वो 2-3-4% उसी ऑर्डर का था. So this is one thing that we track, and I think maybe that is how you can also track कि instead of trying to eliminate everything, just try to see कि अगर कोई स्टॉक खराब आइडेंटिफाई हुआ है तो मैं या तो उसका वेट कैसे कम करूं इन अ सिस्टमैटिक मैनर, या फिर मैं एक टाइमली एग्जिट कैसे कर सकता हूं. ठीक है. अगेन if it is rule based it is a much better approach, but that is how you should go about thinking in your portfolio.
Okay. आई थिंक एक और क्वेश्चन आ रहा है, बट मैं उस क्वेश्चन पर बाद में आऊंगा. उससे पहले मेरे गुल्लक से लेके एक तो मेरा ही क्वेश्चन था, एंड बाकी हम आपके पोर्टफोलियोज के बारे, गियर 5 और गियर 6 के बारे में भी मैं जानना चाहूंगा. बट सबसे पहले मुझे आपकी नेमिंग काफी अच्छी लगी, गुल्लक एंड गियर 5 एंड गियर 6. बिफोर वी रियली गेट इनटू द टेक्निकल्स एंड परफॉर्मेंस, आई वांट टू नो हाउ डिड यू कम अबाउट विद दीस नेम्स.
तो हिमांशु, हमारा जो अप्रोच था ना, वी डिडंट वांट टू क्रिएट टू मेनी पोर्टफोलियोज. ठीक है. तो हमारा स्टॉक का एक ही पोर्टफोलियो है एक्चुअली. अगर स्टॉक्स का देखा जाए, स्टॉक सिलेक्शन, तो स्टॉक का एक पोर्टफोलियो है. बट फिर स्टॉक का एक पोर्टफोलियो, बट हमें ये लगा कि हम ये पोर्टफोलियो 100% इक्विटी के लिए है. तो दिस इज मेंट फॉर ओनली द मोस्ट एग्रेसिव इन्वेस्टर्स. लेकिन अगर किसी को कम रिस्क लेना है तो उसके लिए भी एक पोर्टफोलियो होना चाहिए. तो हमने क्या किया कि ये जो गियर बेस्ड अप्रोच बनाई कि जो बहुत, जैसे आप कार ड्राइव कर रहे हैं तो अगर आपकी रोड क्लियर है, आपको बहुत दूर तक दिख रहा है, तो आप गियर हाई गियर में चलाएंगे। वेराज ऑन द फ्लिप साइड की अगर आपको या तो फॉग है तो यू आर अनेबल टू सी, या बहुत ज्यादा ट्रैफिक है तो आप लोअर गियर में स्लो चलाएंगे, राइट। अगेन आपका गोल या आपकी डेस्टिनेशन बहुत दूर है तो अगेन आप फास्ट चलाएंगे, डेस्टिनेशन पास में है तो आप उतना फास्ट नहीं चलाएंगे। तो दैट इज द सिमिलर अप्रोच वी हैव टेकन इन आवर पोर्टफोलियोज, इन द सेंस कि अगर आपको बहुत रिस्क लेना है, अगर आप ऐसे इन्वेस्टर हैं जो एक पार्ट से एग्रेसिव पोर्टफोलियो बनाना चाहते हैं तो गियर 6। अगर आपको थोड़ा सा कम रिस्क लेना है तो गियर 5 है, जिसमें हमने क्या किया कि 20% डेट ऐड कर दिया है। तो आपका स्टॉक portfolio is exactly the same, only the asset allocation, instead of 100% equity, we have done 80% in equity and 20% in debt. एक स्टेप अगर और कम रिस्क लेना है तो गियर 4 हो जाता है, जिसमें 60% इक्विटी होती है एंड 40% डेट, एंड दैट इज हाउ वी आर अप्रोचिंग द होल पोर्टफोलियो। तो अगर आप इक्विटी वाला पार्ट देखेंगे तो वो सब में ही सेम रहेगा। So that is about multiple gears.
दैट्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग। मतलब अगर मुझे स्पोर्ट्स कार चलानी है तो मैं गियर 6 पर आ जाता हूँ, बट अगर इफ आई एम not very much friendly with the sport, but I'm trying to use sports as a metaphor here, but I really like the names. So I think now we'll talk about I still have one more question, as I said I'll come to it
Yeah.
because ये काफी अच्छा क्वेश्चन दिख रहा है मुझे, बट उससे पहले मैं आपके पोर्टफोलियोज के बारे में बात करना चाह रहा हूँ। सो गियर 5 एंड गियर 6 की परफॉर्मेंसेस को लेके अगर हम देखें, आपने जैसे बताया कि ऑलमोस्ट 3 साल हो गए इनको लाइव हुए, राइट?
Yeah.
तो 3 साल की परफॉर्मेंसेस को एक बार अगर आप बता सकते हैं हमारे व्यूअर्स को, क्योंकि शायद काफी लोग ऐसे होंगे जो गुल्लक को हो सकता है शायद ना जानते हो या नए, दे आर न्यू टू द वर्ल्ड ऑफ
Yeah.
इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, तो
Yeah.
उसके लिए अगर हम
Yeah. So this is the performance of Gulaq Gear 6. Okay. तो लास्ट 3 साल में अगर हम मल्टी कैप बेंचमार्क देखते हैं जो हमारा है, उसने 124% रिटर्न्स दिया है। दिस वाज ओरिजिनली लॉन्च्ड इन मई 2020। तो सिंस देन मल्टी कैप इंडेक्स हैज ग्रोन बाय 124%, और उसी टाइम में गुल्लक गियर 6 ने 340% रिटर्न दिया है। ठीक है। अगेन दिस इज समथिंग दैट वी are not promising. We can't promise this thing. We have been lucky that we got this. Obviously, our approach is something that we are very proud of. कि बहुत ही consistent methodology है. If you look across the years, also every year we have been able to beat the benchmark. तो 22 when the markets gave 3-4%, उस साल भी हमने roughly 20% गियर 6 में दिया था। 23 is also going on fine, roughly double the returns of multi cap index हैं अभी तक। तो in terms of consistency, in terms of beating the benchmark, we have done well. This is in gear 6. I do not have with me gear 5 right now, but gear 5 में क्या है कि risk is reduced and so is the returns. तो रफली आप ये मान लीजिए कि रिटर्न्स आपके 20% तक रिड्यूस हो जाएंगे ओवरऑल ऑफ 340%। इट विल बी स्लाइटली अंडर 300%, बट आपका रिस्क भी कम हो जाता है बिकॉज वी हैव 20% डेट इन इट। तो आपका रिस्क इट्स गोइंग टू बी मच लेस वॉलेटाइल एज कंपेयर टू गियर 6, बट रिस्क और रिटर्न्स दोनों ही कम हो जाते हैं, बट रिस्क एडजस्टेड रिटर्न्स अगर आप देखते हैं तो दे आर स्टिल वेरी वेरी सॉलिड।
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So I think so. Just for our viewers, we can let them know if you are willing to invest in Gulaq's portfolio, you can of course come down to our website. You can visit www.pickright.in. यहाँ पर Gear 5 और Gear 6 दोनों ही available हैं. And if you have any other questions, we are live. You can definitely share. विवेक, लास्ट क्वेश्चन जो मुझे दिख रहा है, परहैप्स अगेन वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट्स, क्योंकि मैं अभी इस चीज को थोड़ा डिटेल में स्टडी कर रहा था।
ओके।
माइकल बरी ने हाल ही में 1 बिलियन के ऊपर से मार्केट को शॉर्ट किया है। क्या मुझे भी शॉर्ट करना चाहिए? ओके, आई एम गेटिंग द एसेंस ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन, बट आई वुड लाइक टू नो फ्रॉम यू, हाउ डू यू लुक एट दिस होल थिंग?
यार ये आई थिंक ऑल्दो ये मॉडल पोर्टफोलियोज हैं, बट इट इज वेरी वेरी पर्सनल थिंग कि आप अपनी इन्वेस्टिंग को कैसे अप्रोच कर रहे हैं। माइकल बरी इज अ बिलियनर, right? So even if he loses maybe 20, 30, or even 50% of his wealth, let's say, he's still one of the richest in the world, right? He'll maybe still be a billionaire, right? Are we at a stage that we are comfortable losing 50% of our wealth? So the point I'm trying to make is, I'm not saying he is wrong or anything. I'm just saying he's different. The way he approaches market is different. His overall financial condition is totally different than yours and is different than mine, right? So maybe he can afford to take that risk. Again, if he has shorted, do you know how many times he has been right? Obviously, he's very popular investor, uh, and after that movie Big Short, he became really popular. People started tracking him on social media, and he's very active on social media. He shares his views. But if I remember correctly, past few of his bets have been very wrong. I think sometime back, before the market started rising, at that time also he was quite bearish, very bearish at that time, and suddenly markets rose and he turned his positions from bearish to bullish. So he's a very different investor. You don't know his stop losses, you don't know anything about him apart from one simple fact that he is shorted. We don't know what he's looking at. So I'll never want to copy any investor, whether it's a global investor or even Indian investor. But I think a better approach to do is not to copy their positions, but to learn from their approach. What are they looking at? Why have they shorted? I think if you try to get into those, that is likely to help you much more over long run than his positions, right? And same is with Indian investors. पहले राकेश झुंझुनवाला के stocks बहुत closely track किए जाते थे, and there are other investors also जिनके specific stocks बहुत closely track किए जाते हैं. तो आई थिंक अ बेटर अप्रोच वुड बी कि अगर आप उनकी इन्वेस्टिंग फिलॉसफी के बारे में जानना चाहेंगे, और बहुत सारा मटेरियल अवेलेबल है ऑन इंटरनेट, अगर आप वो समझ के तब चीजें समझेंगे कि व्हाई ही इज लॉन्ग, व्हाई ही इज सेलेक्टिंग फ्यू स्टॉक्स, व्हाट ही डज इफ ही गेट्स इट रॉन्ग, वो एसेट एलोकेशन कैसे करते हैं अपना, कि एक स्टॉक को कितना परसेंटेज अलॉट करना है, ऑल ऑफ दोज थिंग्स. If you try to learn about that, that is a much better approach than just blindly selecting their trades.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Vivek, for taking the time. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining. I guess some of you are watching us on LinkedIn, some on Twitter, some on Instagram. Oh, okay. Some on Instagram as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so
great.
much, everybody, for joining. Before we leave, Vivek, आपके लिए any last words to our investors? Uh, and more so, I'm coming from the context कि recently जैसे आपने देखा काफी सारे so called fin influencers को target एक targeted campaign के through. I mean, not exactly to demean them or to bring them down, but investor education के लिए जो इतने सारे initiatives हो रहे हैं, वहाँ पे fin influencers को काफी टैग किया जा रहा है, और हम जैसे रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स काफी ज्यादा उनसे इन्फ्लुएंस्ड हो जाते हैं. तो एनी
Yeah,
लास्ट वर्ड, एनी मैसेज टू ऑल द व्यूअर्स हु आर वाचिंग अस?
I think ये फिर इन्फ्लुएंसर्स कुछ कुछ बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, है ना, बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से दे आर ट्राइंग टू एजुकेट पीपल, और वो दिखता है उनके काम में. और कुछ हैं जो हु आर ऑब्वियसली डूइंग बहुत गलत काम करते हैं फॉर मनी, ऑल ऑफ दैट. सो देयर आर मल्टीपल टाइप ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंसर्स, लाइक देयर आर मल्टीपल टाइप्स ऑफ पीपल, देयर आर मल्टीपल टाइप्स ऑफ fund managers, all of that, right? I think one simple thing that I'd like to say is there's no uh, get rich quick scheme out there. Definitely कोई ऐसी स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं है, कोई ऐसा प्रोडक्ट नहीं है जो आपको बहुत ही जल्दी बहुत ज्यादा पैसा बना देगा. आई थिंक अगर आप स्लो और स्टडी अप्रोच लेंगे तो दैट इज एक्चुअली अ फास्टर अप्रोच इन द लॉन्गर रन. ठीक है. एंड ट्राई टू कीप थिंग्स सिंपल. बहुत ज्यादा एक्सोटिक प्रोडक्ट्स में मत घुसिए, एक्सोटिक स्ट्रैटेजीज में मत घुसिए. जितना आप सिंपल रखेंगे अपनी स्ट्रैटेजीज को, अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट फिलॉसफी को, उतना इजी होगा आपको मेंटेन करने में. तो या दैट्स अबाउट इट.
Well, thank you so much, Vivek. Thank you so much everyone for joining. आप अगर गुल्लक के पोर्टफोलियोज को एक्सप्लोर करना चाहते हैं, then you can come to Pickright. हमारे इन्वेस्ट पैक सेक्शन में आपको उनके गेयर 5, गेयर 6 दोनों ही पोर्टफोलियोज के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाएगी और आप सब्सक्राइब कर सकते हैं. And we will be coming back with more initiatives, with more lives to keep our effort of investor education going. Thank you so much for joining. This is Himanshu, and we have Vivek on the screen. We are signing off for now, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.